Hey guys, in this video I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how we can start using or how you can start using the Compass design system to create your designs, to just start from wherever we've left off our components and stop worrying about, like, let's say figuring out the styles, figuring out the fonts or anything along those lines. So obviously you can learn more about the Compass design system by going to the Zeroheight link, which I'll post in the video description. But for starters, let's just go on to our Figma file. I'm going to just show you what the Compass design system team looks like. So here's the Compass design system team. We have a bunch of patterns. We have components for mobile, resources, foundations, components for the web, templates, patterns, so on and so forth. So let's say if you want to just start building things from scratch. How do you go about doing that? Well, obviously you don't want to build things completely from scratch, but let's say if you want to use, if you want to like create a page yourself. So I'm just going to press A. I'm going to create a desktop page, and I'm going to say, first of all, I want the sidebars to be there, obviously, because that's what the current app looks like. So we have the sidebar. I'm also going to grab the team sidebar. If you actually, obviously, I know these visually, so I can easily grab them. But if you don't know what these particular things are, you can just show them as a list. And as you can see, we have the team sidebar, the right-hand sidebar, the channel sidebar, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to grab this as well. I don't really want to play around with the spacing and or whatever, because these two obviously need to be the same size. So I'm just going to go ahead and select these two. I'm going to press Shift A to convert them into an auto layout. I'm going to remove the spacing in between them. I'm going to press Enter to select both of those things, and I'm going to say expand the height to fill the container. So we have this particular thing, and now let's say if I want to include the header at the top, I can say I want to have the channel header at the top. Here we have the channel header. Similarly, we can now have the message input area. So I want to go ahead and I can say I want to have the message input area, so on and so forth. So here's how you can actually go about creating your own design. For example, you actually want to include a button just straight in the middle of the page. You can do that as well. So yeah, that's basically how you start using some of the components that we've already created. One really good thing about like some of the stuff that the designers at Mattermost have done is if you actually go into the Compass design system, you can actually see some of the templates that we've created for you to really start working and iterating and just fleshing out designs really quick. So for example, if you actually go to the templates on the web app, we've actually created a bunch of these templates. So for example, if you wanted to experiment with the onboarding screens, so for example, if you want to introduce a particular new feature and you just want to create a design for that, I can just go ahead and copy this and paste it in my Compass design, this particular file. Or let's say I just want to experiment with the center channel, I can just go and choose the center channel design. Where is it? So here, as you can see, this is channel, and I'm just going to copy it. Obviously, this is a really large composition of components, so this particular thing may take time if I actually copy it and paste it. So I've pasted it, and this may just take a few seconds. So now it's pasted. So now if I, for example, wanted to change something, I wanted to change the team, I can say this is team 2 or whatever it is. I want to change, let's say, the icon here. I can just, or like some text here, I can do all of those things. I perhaps want to remove this button, I can just hide it. I want to change this particular thing, I can change it as well. So there are like a bunch of things that you can do. Obviously, you can change the color as well. I can go here and I can select the color that exists in the design system, and that's just really easy. Those are just really easy ways to actually navigate around the design system and create whatever it is that you want to create, instead of worrying about like those nitty-gritty details. Now, for example, if I actually wanted to add a modal here, I can search modal, obviously, and I'm just going to say I want to see all of the results. So as you can see, we have a bunch of these modals here. So the what's new modal is here as well. So if I just go ahead and drag it here, just so we can have a look at what that modal looks like. So I don't really want this modal. Perhaps I want the manage team members modal or something. So here we have the modal, and I can basically just click and drag it on top of the screen if I want. I can also go ahead, like obviously we need an overlay to sit behind the modal, so I can search for an overlay, and as you can see we have the overlay here. I'm gonna drag it outside. One thing that I do want to caution when you're working with the templates or any of the design system elements, if I actually just go ahead and drag these things, as you can see some of the elements are being positioned on top of the modal, so you would have to actually figure that out yourself. So for example, if I go to the darkening overlay, anything that actually sits above in this particular area is actually going to be the one that's going to be the most visible, because imagine it's like a set of papers and the paper that's on the top is actually going to be the one that's going to be visible. So by default, if I, let's say, want to move this down, I can just drag it down, and as you can see now the darkening overlay actually overlaps everything, and I can just expand it. I'm just doing it very roughly. If you want to do it obviously very precisely, you can do that too. And now I can just go ahead and I can drag this particular thing. Now this is a problem that I do want to highlight. So now I'm dragging it and the modal automatically disappears. And if I actually let my click go, as you can see, the modal is now dragged within the post area or the post list, which isn't something that I really wanted. And the reason for that is that this particular list, this post list, is actually a auto layout component, and it also is contained within a frame. So anytime when you try to drag things over a frame, by default Figma would actually try to place the thing that you're dragging automatically inside of that frame. So it's gonna contain that thing within the frame that you're dragging it over. If you want to avoid that and you don't really want to place elements within the frame that you're dragging it over on, you actually need to start dragging the element and press space. If you actually press space while dragging it, it's not going to be included. It's not going to be included within that particular frame. It's not going to get added in, and it's going to retain its current position in the hierarchy on the left hand side. And now I can say I want it to sit inside the desktop thing. And yeah, that's basically how you play around with the components. You can obviously change the title here, do whatever. And let's say if you want to introduce a button here, this is something that I want you guys to pay attention to. If you actually want to introduce elements, so obviously you can actually do minor modifications, change the button variant properties. You can make this large, you can make this primary, you can obviously have it destructive. You can do all of these things that actually components allow you to do. But let's say if you or you can obviously change text as well. But let's say if you actually wanted to introduce new things within a component that we, the design team, have already created, you would actually have to detach the particular component from its master, that particular instance from its master component. So how do you go about doing that? Well, obviously you can just press Command Option B, and that's going to detach it. As you can see, some of the properties here disappeared. I just pressed Command Z, so they're back now, but Command Option B is just going to detach them and allow you to mess around with the things or place new things in there, so on and so forth. As you can see, this particular sign, I've explained it in my components video as well, which I'll link. But this particular symbol indicates that this is an instance, and you can't really add elements within instances. So for example, if I actually wanted to add a button here, I'm going to first go ahead and detach this particular instance from its master component. You can also detach it by going here. I'm going to detach it. Now I'm going to go here, and as you can see, this thing is purple as well, and you can obviously see that it's purple by the bounding or the transform box that appears around it. So if I select this particular thing here, as you can see, this is not a component, which is why the bounding box is actually blue, whereas this one is purple. So that means I also have to detach this as well. So I'm just going to press Command Option B to detach it, and now I can go to my assets panel. I can say I want to include a button here, and I can just go ahead and I can drag the button here, and I can say I want it to be large or something, or medium probably, and I want it to be tertiary, and I just want to name it search or something. So yeah, that's basically how you go about like modifying some of the pre-existing components. Ideally, you obviously want to play around with things the way they are if you don't really want to introduce new things, because our components really do offer a lot of flexibility. But in case you actually want to do something that's not offered by our components, or if you actually want to introduce new things within the existing components or patterns that we've created, you would have to detach them. And especially for exploration sort of for explorations, for hackathons, or for anything along those lines, feel free to detach the components within your own files. Obviously create your own file, play around with the components that we've created in your own file, tweak them however way you want. And if the idea is good, or if what you think is actually going to be reused later on, the design team can consider it to be included in the larger Compass Design Components library. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you actually start using and incorporating the Compass Design System when you're creating designs or innovating. And I think like that's pretty much it. Do subscribe, do hit the bell icon, and do let me know if you would like to see any other videos related to this, or if you need any further clarifications. But that's pretty much it for now. Thank you.